And we are live now. Oh, got to clear my throat. Welcome. This is a live stream, and I'm Doug. We're going to talk about affiliate marketing, niche sites, maybe keyword research. I think it's going to be perhaps a quiet day. I didn't send an email out. I rescheduled the time. I brought it in a little bit earlier just because it worked out a little better for me. Let me know if you could hear me out there. It's always good to confirm that. I can hear myself. That is a good sign. So say hello in the chat. Let me know where you're from. And again, let me know if you could hear me. I see we have Duke on, and Duke wisely said, prepare for a lot of questions about the Affiliageddon update from Google there, which, I won't even say anything about it. I'll wait until questions come in. Duke, what do you know? What do you know here? Again, I'll wait. I'll wait before I get into it too much. Oh, Adrian's on. What's up? Thanks for hopping in. And then we also have, somebody says the sound in the video is good. Great. We also have Frank on. Fantastic. Okay. Cool. Well, today is December 7th, and we're just going to do our normal live stream. I did pull it in earlier in the day just because that worked out a little bit better. And the thing is, one reason why I moved my live stream later in the day is because Alex Cooper was doing his WP Eagle live streams at around the same time that I sort of like to do mine. And I thought I'll schedule mine after his. Maybe that'll be a good move. But it's so late in the day that a lot of times I feel like people don't even, it's an awkward time of day. So the 3 p.m. Mountain Time is a little rough. This is about 2 hours earlier, so maybe I'll pull it in. I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes. We have Bradbury on. We also have Phil Taylor, Magician, and Gaz. Okay, so, and I think this time is a little bit better, thinking of our worldwide time zones that we have to think about. So, okay, couple random things. Number one, quick thanks to the sponsors. Number one is Ezoic, their product Leap. It'll help your site get green and core web vitals, load faster, and generally have a better visitor experience. So check it out. It's free if you monetize with Ezoic, and even if you are just starting your site, there's no page view limits, no page view minimum with Ezoic. So you could follow the link in the description here, and then you'd be able to use those products, start monetizing. Even if you get very little traffic, you can go ahead and integrate and take advantage of that. And then the other sponsor is ODYS, which we'll talk about more later, but you can get age domains with solid branding and sort of save yourself some time for searching for like expired domains, which may actually have some spammy type issues, which would negate any advantages by using something like that. All right. The other thing that I'll plug is my 2 podcasts. So I have one called The Doug Show. I talk about these sort of topics. Affiliate marketing, sometimes lifestyle stuff, sometimes random things. Like I've just experimented just a minor bit with publishing a 3rd episode, much shorter, but a 3rd episode per week. And I released that on kind of an awkward day, Sunday afternoon, because I was just inspired and had a few minutes to record something. It was about 15 minutes long. If I didn't talk about recording a 3rd episode, it would have been about 12, something like that. So they're bite-sized, hopefully kind of interesting, and I just talk about what's on my mind. So I'm experimenting with that. The other podcast, the second one, is Mile High Fi. I talk about financial independence and personal finance, which is it's a topic that we probably all should be thinking about. A lot of times the side hustle community, they don't think as much about the personal finance side of it, but really we do all this stuff so we have a little more freedom with our time. And if you have your personal finance in order, you potentially will have a lot more freedom with your time. Okay, let's get into it. So Duke did mention there was a recent Google update, and I asked him what he could tell us about it. So he did put that in. Phil does ask, where do you get your images from? So I'll give you a few recommendations. There is a page on my site, Niche Site Project, that you can go to. It talks about image usage and gives suggestions where you can get some images. So you can use Creative Commons. All right, you can use Creative Commons images. You may have to attribute each image in a certain way. It's all listed wherever you get the images. Flickr is one place you can get those Creative Commons images. There are several other sources out there that are just royalty-free, high-quality images that you can use, no cost. One of them is Unsplash, and there's several others that are in the same category where it's very high quality, very high resolution images that you can use. So Unsplash is one. You can go to stock image websites, and then you may have to pay a couple bucks to use an image, but then it's high quality. You know, the copyright information is accurate, and then you don't have to worry too much. You can just keep solid documentation about that, and you're in good shape. The other place that I'll mention potentially is a source that I've been using more often, although potentially for a different medium, is Canva. So I use Canva for the YouTube thumbnails and some other images that I do, where it makes sense to have some graphic design elements and some of the tools that are available there. And Canva has a pro version. So there's a free version that I used for many years, and occasionally I have used the pro version, where you essentially get a library of stock images and graphics and that sort of thing. So depending on what you need images for, Phil, Canva could be a reasonable source. And what's up, guys? Good to see you. All right, Duke says, Google gave me a shave and cut the hair a tune of 30%. So I lost about 30%. But starting yesterday and so far today, you're seeing an incremental movement back up. Average over 500 plus sites, down 8 positions. Okay, not sites, but pages. The average over 500 pages is down 8 positions. So one observation is with the Google updates. So number one, they happen all the time. They're kind of popular this time of year, right before like the retail season, or right in the middle of the retail season. And typically an algorithm update will roll out, and it may take a little time for it to roll out, maybe up to a couple weeks. Sometimes it's very quick, but sometimes it takes a couple weeks before the update's complete. So we kind of have to wait, and some people won't see any issues at all, and then all of a sudden it'll hit. Sometimes these updates are tweaked, so the update will roll out. Maybe it takes a couple weeks, and then maybe Google realizes there's some unintended consequences, some different impacts out there that they need to adjust. Like maybe they accidentally hit a site that's really high quality, and it's a huge site. You know, typically you may hear about an algorithm update that hits a big site, and then it's sort of tweaked and things sort of return back to normal. So it's not usually a light switch that's flipped. It's usually an update that rolls out. And then the other part is it's an update that's adjusted. And you may hear people talk about Google tweaking the algorithm almost on a daily or multiple times per day. And those could be very minor. It could be for a smaller subset of the database, a smaller portion of the algorithm, a very minor area of the internet where it's not a major update, it's just a small tweak. So those do happen after an algorithm update. And to Duke's point, traffic dropped a lot, but now it's kind of coming back up. So who really knows what's going on? Gaz mentions that his site's too young to worry about the traffic drop and a vote for Canva. And Canva is great as far as a very quick graphic design tool. One of the reasons why I recently grabbed the pro version even though I, for a while, had not been using it, is you can remove the background with like a click of a button. And I have some better, like other more sophisticated, more powerful photo editing software, and you manually have to remove the background. There's apps on the phone, on my phone. There's Canva. You click a button and it takes about a second and a half or two. The background just goes away. You can tweak it a little bit, but it's very fast. So Canva is really powerful for what it does, and I mean it makes it so easy to do very common pieces of, or very common functions that a graphic designer needs to do. All right, perfect. And Adrian is awesome. Really doing a great job in the chat here. Shout out to Adrian. All right, and Zach says, this was the first update where I took a real hit. Weirdly, a lot of Reddit posts outrank me now for some keywords. Interesting. And Adrian follows up and asks, what kind of site? What kind of keywords are they? Yeah, I'm curious about that too, Zach. And how old's your site? How much content's out there? Just curious about that. Andreas says, if your posts are hit by the November update, do you think it'll help to modify your affiliate heavy post by scaling down on affiliate links? So here's one of the reasons why I'll have to move on with any of my reservations and just talk. But basically, after these updates, no one knows what to do because the updates are actively rolling out. So no one knows what the fuck exactly happened. And then it's tweaked along the way. So Duke mentions here exactly, my belief is that Google puts out the new ranking signals, then lets the AI test between the previous rankings and the new signals, and the AI does the adjustments. I think that is probably exactly what happens. Things are tweaked, and it may be tweaked by machine learning and AI. You know, if Google is able to see that, you know, the Reddit posts that are outranking Zach's site now are not doing as well because there's, you know, random conversation happening in the Reddit post and things aren't upvoted properly or whatever, it may turn out that Duke's post or Zach's post or whoever is actually a better result for the visitor because they don't have to read through a bunch of nonsense on Reddit. So that makes total sense to me. Going back to Andrea's question, the thing is, after these updates, no one quite knows. So your question is, do I think removing affiliate links will help after these updates? Honestly, probably not, unless you just have a fuckload of these links in there. Most likely, you probably had a reasonable number of links. There could be, I don't know, probably 10 other things that are beyond the scope of the number of affiliate links that probably could make a difference. But for me to say, do I think it would help if you scaled down on the affiliate links? I don't know. You maybe had very few affiliate links, and if you remove more of them, it won't even matter. So the problem with these updates is I'm too honest because I just say I don't know the answer, which is not helpful. And I could talk out of my ass and make up some things. But usually right after an update, I usually just keep my lips sealed and don't pay too much attention. I've talked to at least, I think, about 5 people that have had no impacts on their sites at all, and some had some traffic increases. Laughing Hyena says, do I think it is more safe? I think we would just say, yeah. Do I think it's safer to have an information focus rather than a niche site where we have purely product reviews? Do I think it's safer? it depends on, what your focus is. Generally, it probably, quote, is safer, but one has to look at the risk reward factor. So, I mean, the fact is you have to have a lot more traffic to get the same earnings, like a 10x factor, like a magnitude higher to earn the same as an affiliate based website. The best scenario is a blend, though. A best scenario is a blend of information and content based on product reviews. And Zach mentions that it looks like articles that aggregate data from product manuals were hit particularly hard, even if the manufacturers make the data hard to find otherwise. So Phil asked this: how many pages do you need to aim to publish in a year to get good income? So first, Phil, how do you define good income? And then further, you say, assuming you've done good keyword research, good on-page SEO, site structure, indexing, blah, blah, blah. So assuming you do everything good. So my follow-up is you have to define good income. And basically the answer is you should probably publish as much as you can afford to publish. That's the answer. There's no way to, I don't think there's a way to reliably estimate like you need to publish this amount per year, because your site may take off, right? You may publish some content that really does well and you don't need any backlinks, for example, to rank that content. Sometimes you may find a very profitable area of the internet where you don't need nearly as much content to make good money. So it depends. And more data. So Duke says a good percentage of the informational posts took a hit. So when we think about this on a a deeper level, then the answer the answer is more complicated, right? So this was targeted at sites with affiliate content, and maybe they didn't review the content or review the products by actually physically reviewing them. So what does it tell us when a lot of the data that we're getting, at least in this small sample set today, is informational posts took a hit too? So does that mean maybe the update was looking at not just the affiliate review content, but also the informational content? Or was it looking at sites that had some percentage of affiliate content? Or was it looking at the number of affiliate links? And then if your site had a lot of affiliate links, it just hit all of your content. And it wasn't really like looking at how helpful the informational content. Does that make sense? Like, would that make sense for Google to do? I don't know. It seems like they would want to look at each piece of content and like weigh it against the searcher intent and hopefully serve the searcher. I don't know. So the answer is I have no idea. All right. So Phil says, okay, so in Phil's definition, a good amount of money is $1,000. And Phil says, how many pages do you need to publish in a year to get that? Okay. So I just interviewed Andra, a lady from Romania, and she lives in the Netherlands now. And we talked about a site. So this is a review I published just last week. So we talked about a site that was earning about $1,000 a month. And I think that site currently has 80 articles. And I think that she got close to that amount with only 40 articles. So she recently added more content. The interesting thing is she has another site that we didn't even cover that is earning like $600 or $700 per month, and it sort of jumped up. It only gets about, I'm trying to remember, it only gets, say, 100 visitors a day, something like that. So she's earning five, six, $700 with just 100 visitors a day. So 3,000 visitors per month. I don't know how much content is on there, but Phil, the point is you don't necessarily need to publish a lot of content to earn $1,000 per month. You could probably earn $1,000 per month with 30 articles, 50 articles, but it depends on how you're monetizing, and it depends on the niche, and it depends on the price of the products in the niche, and if you are earning mostly from ads or mostly from Amazon. So the question that you asked is very hard to answer. What you're trying to do is figure out how much content you should think about publishing in the next year. And my answer to you, Phil, is as much as you can afford. That's probably your constraints. You could look at how much you can afford in the form of capital to invest and hire writers or hire an agency, or how your personal time capital of typing it and writing it out yourself. So publish as much as you can. What will happen is you'll gain momentum and hopefully earn some money and be able to reinvest, and then it's not as big of a deal. So how do you earn $1,000 per month? You probably publish 30, 50 articles as you're getting started, essentially as quickly as you can, and then see how it goes. In the early days, it's going to look really slow, like nothing's happening. But over time, it could be, thousands of dollars per month with that, same original content, but it just takes a little while to work. Let's see. Success with Sadguru. Sorry, I'm mispronouncing your name. What's your highest revenue in a year from Amazon? It's funny. Number one, I don't share my earnings or total earnings or anything like that these days. Occasionally, I would share pieces of information here and there. And you say I have a calming voice like a meditator, a mediator. Meditator. All right. Thanks. Glad it's calming. It's all the microphones. It's just all the microphones. Okay, so the highest revenue, I'm trying to think if I can answer anything that's helpful. How about this? I used to work as a project manager in management consulting, and I had a pretty good salary. I make a lot more than that now. Vincent says, what's my favorite monetization strategy and why? I think I'm going to cheat, Vincent, and say it's a blend. I think probably the best route is to have multiple sources, which, that's probably something you already knew. So Amazon's very easy when you're starting off. There's a lot of products. It converts really well. That's why I talk about Amazon all the time. I had great success with Amazon personally. And I guess I can be more specific with Sadguru and just say, like, I've made well over 6 figures from Amazon in a year, just to keep it vague, but usually that's enough for people to, I guess, think I know what I'm talking about. So a blend of monetization strategies is good because then you're not relying on one specific thing. And you know what? Let's take it a step further because I plugged my other podcast, the Personal Finance Podcast, and I'm very generally conservative investor. This is not financial advice. This is just what I do. Consult your own expert. Although I don't even trust those. I don't trust financial advisors, but seek professionals. I'm not a professional. Entertainment only. I'll just tell you what I do. Index funds, Vanguard index funds is kind of like the standard answer in the sphere of people that I hang out with. And that works really well. it's virtually impossible to beat the market as a stock market investor, especially over the long term. I know people may know, like, I don't know, we're in a weird space of like, uh, making money and passive income and all this stuff. But my kind of favorite monetization is like invest in the index funds, and then you're looking at not 6 months or 2 years even, but I'm looking at it over 25 years, and generally that's probably going to work out really well, and I like that. I mean, the other, getting back to content sites, ads are fantastic. I mentioned Ezoic, who sponsor these. They're a great company to work with, and a blend is really great. Thinking about product reviews, the best, in my opinion, are digital products to work with. So that's software or courses. The margins are so high in those areas that you're able to usually earn a much higher commission rate. And if you're, targeting things that and covering topics that you're interested in, it's not so bad. And for example, courses, right? If you take the course and you review it and you're actually like getting something out of the course, it's really easy to sell. You could just talk about your results that you've had. Or if it's a piece of software, you could talk about how well it works. Like I just mentioned Canva. I think they have an affiliate program. I just haven't signed up. And some of those digital products have recurring revenue. So if someone continues to renew, you continue to be paid. All right. Zach comes back and says his site is about a year old, 130 articles. Gotcha. Okay. Nick says, thanks for doing these. You're welcome. I have a site with 150 handwritten articles, 2,500 words on average, 300,000 words total. It's 7.2 months old. That's very specific, and gets 20 views a day. Is that a bad sign? It depends on a couple things. I would hope for a little bit more traffic, but I had a site that behaved similar, and the Sandbox period was more like 10 months, 9-10 months or so. And then it started to get a bit more traffic. And then after a year, it really took off, and it's getting, a lot more traffic. It's getting about 30-40,000 page views a month now. But before, it definitely took a little while to get rolling. And quick favor, so two things. If you're on and you haven't hit the thumbs up, please do. It helps people get to these, and it helps YouTube suggest all that kind of stuff. It helps a little bit. So hit the thumbs up. I appreciate it, especially if I answered a question for you. Then the other is, please check out my podcasts, especially whichever one you're more interested in, right? So one's more SEO focused, the other and affiliate marketing focused, and the other one is more personal finance focused. But please check them out. I'm trying to get more folks listening to those. I really like the podcast format in general. The feedback loop kind of sucks, but I'm a podcast listener myself, and I think that's maybe why I love creating the spoken word overall. So, okay, coming back to Nick, I would hope for a little more traffic, but I think you're okay. I would highly recommend, Nick, if you can find someone with a little more experience than you to have a look at the site. It's really helpful to have an expert look to see if you're making some small but important mistake. You might need to tweak one or two things that can change a lot. And if it's someone who is an expert, they could probably spend 10 minutes and say, hey, I think it's probably all right, or you've screwed up in this area and tweak this or that. Usually an expert can tell pretty quick. I just need to talk quieter. I could do more NPR style. So the problem, if I get a cough drop, is I'll make like the weird cough drop noises in my mouth. Like it'll hit my teeth and stuff. Nobody wants to hear that. Let me throw this away. And I think if I just talk quieter, it'll be better. All right. Everyone's cool. Oh, so many new thumbs up. It's funny. All you have to do is ask. I've gone through like a whole hour and never asked, and you end up with like 6. One of them's mine. So thanks, much appreciated. All right. Tanvir says, can I pick keywords from a forum? Yeah, you sure can. That's a great way to do it. Beer bong, nice. I have a event calendar on my website. All the events have links from my website to their website. Is it still okay for Google to ask organizers to link back to my site? Their domains are mostly new. Is it okay for Google to ask organizers? So I think, yeah, you should be fine. I think ideally, the links are not going from one URL to another URL and then back. It'll probably be better like if they link to your homepage, something like that. But, generally it's going to be okay. There could be some danger. Some people think about the reciprocal link issue that used to be, sort of a common tactic, but it is okay for sites to link to each other. Like, for example, my site links to Niche Pursuits, and Niche Pursuit links to my site because we talk about similar topics, and it makes sense for us to link to each other. And we also know each other. I know Spencer, and maybe we ping each other on Skype or something like that. So it's totally normal for us to link to each other, and it's relevant, and there's no reason for that to be an issue in Google's eyes. All right, Saguru is on also. What's going on from India? Laughing Hyena says, in the context of the new update, what do I suggest new bloggers avoid? Nothing specific. I mean, if you have high quality content, you're probably in good shape. Nothing. I generally, I'm so conservative with the way I do things that I've rarely had to adjust my suggestions here. So I typically have been recommending 50% affiliate content, 50% informational since about 2015 or 16 or so. Luckily, that's verifiable. The other is probably in the last 2 years, I've said 50-50 is probably okay, but if you had more informational, maybe that's even better. So I've been kind of sticking to the same thing that was very conservative back then, and it's still acceptable now. All right. Sadhguru says, is blogging saturated? It is. There's a lot of people that blog. There's a lot of people that do all sorts of online content. Is it saturated? I would say, yeah, probably everything's saturated to some degree. It depends on your context, but it is doable. I've seen brand new bloggers start up and get a ton of traffic in, a year, 6 months. I mean, depending on what they're doing, you can get a lot of traffic. And you can see this across any platform, social media platforms. You can see it on YouTube or podcasts. Things grow fast. Phil asks if I'm a millionaire, and I don't talk about my net worth or my earnings or anything like that. But one thing I can share, so my podcast partner for Mile High Fi. He blogs at 1500days.com, and he publishes his net worth. And we shoot our little show down right here. In the here. Is it gonna focus on me? I'm over here. My face is over here. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, so we sit back here, and that's where we record. And Carl publishes his net worth. So you can go to 1500days.com. You could actually see his portfolio and stuff like that. It's some spreadsheet, Google Doc thing he created. So you can see his net worth there if you're interested, but I don't talk about my earnings or anything like that. And going through. Yeah, thanks everybody for hitting the thumbs up. And Nick says, for the site that took over a year to get out of the sandbox, what was the general niche? I could say like consumer electronics generally. Zach says, for anyone that hasn't noticed, AWS is having major issues today. Among other things, it's impacting the Amazon API. A lot of ugly image load failures until they fix it. You know what? I was on one of the tools that I use, and their site like crapped out for a minute, which is unusual. So I wonder if that, I mean, I don't know what's the percentage of the internet that runs on AWS. I bet that was related. Oh, Adrian does mention check to see if your articles are indexed. That's back to Nick. And if they're not indexed, try to internal link from posts that are already indexed and ranking, and maybe force index them. And Nick says, yeah, I did that. And I had a little discussion on this the other day. And basically, you can try to force index, and sometimes things will be indexed and they'll drop off. And then other things will pop on the index, and then those will drop off. So it's kind of a moving target. And one of my students, I was chatting with him the other day, and he said he has, I think it was like 350 indexed articles. And then he has probably like 40 that are not yet indexed. So as he's published more and gotten more links, it's gotten faster to index. Things are more consistently staying indexed and ranking faster. I just talked to Christy, one of my students, and she's doing the 2x accelerator. So I just got her November update. She hit record revenue. That's going to come out next week, by the way. And she says basically, like, as soon as she publishes something, like, it ranks in the top 10, for low competition keywords. It'll rank in the top 10, and then it'll slowly move up after that. And essentially, like, everything is indexed for her. Like, there's no major issue. And the other part is she doesn't, sweat it too hard in general. So she's not in there looking too closely. Dan, we've missed you. Dan says, what's up? And you've been busy moving the last few weeks. It's so much work to move. So much work. All right, Master's here too. What's up? All right, Masher says, you sold a site a month ago and you're still getting earnings from the affiliate links on the blog. No, it sounds like I'm assuming it's an Amazon site. So that probably means there's still some of your links on the site somewhere. That's what that means. And Sadhguru says, is it possible to make 10K by blogging? Yeah, you basically can earn, there's no top limit for what you can earn. All right, Zach says a third of the internet partially uses AWS. I believe it. Oh, and James, good data here. So on low competition, keywords usually rank within a day, and can confirm you hit the 1800 mark in November. Okay, cool. Nice work, James. And I was trying to think if there was anything else I was going to talk about specifically. Oh, Yes, I got two great things. I didn't, sometimes, beforehand, I'll like create a little outline about things I'm going to talk about. I didn't do that today because there was a couple things that I could point you towards. I think I even linked in the show notes, the description here. Oh yeah, yeah, it's in the description. So maybe keep watching. Don't leave me now. But there's some. You know what? You can if you need to. So there's a couple links. So number one, I'll share my screen. So Asen shared this story. He sold a site for $42,000. It was an outdoor site, outdoor niche. He actually reveals the URL, and it's in this post here. So I sent out an email a little while back, a few weeks back. I can pop on the screen here. So I sent an email a few weeks back to ask for success stories. Hands down, the most popular kind of content is YouTube. It works on the podcast and it works on the blog. People like these success stories. And it's definitely more interesting to have the smaller dollar amounts. And the thing is, he sold it for 42K. That's a lot. But the site was only earning about $1,000 per month or so. There were a couple higher months, a little bit seasonal. Again, it's outdoors, so you can imagine it's seasonal in the summer. So he reveals it in this post. I'm not going to mention it here. Someone bought the site, but I did check with Asen about publishing like the link and mentioning it. So I buried it in here. Yes, I'm trying to get you to go to my website. So make no mistake, I want you to go to the website, sign up for the email list. I give you all my templates and stuff. Asen and I had a short coaching session in early 2019. I think we probably talked for maybe 30 minutes or so. And I don't even remember the conversation very well. I remember we chatted. Hopefully I gave him some useful tips. He, follows several different sources, so it's not like, I'm taking credit, but we did have a coaching session and he wanted to share his story. It was also a done for you site. So he bought it from one of the companies out there that produces ready-made sites, and you just buy them and you can start working on them. I usually, frown on the idea overall, but it can work out. And this is a perfect example. He worked on it for a couple years, so it's not like you can just buy it and flip them or anything, but you can check out his story and he goes into a lot of details. I want to talk about ODYS. That's ODYS. That is a place where you can get aged domains. So these are not expired, usually picked up via auction, and they have these great filtering mechanisms over here. So you can check out English sites, and maybe we want to find something that is sort of outdoor related, since I just mentioned Asen's site. So let's see if anything pops up. So there's a few here. I just put in outdoor and there's 41 results. So you can kind of, dial it in. Now, some of them are not going to always work out, like pocket artillery that, may or may not fit. But the thing is, if you have a domain already and you're in a certain niche, you can maybe search for a domain that has backlinks already and then acquire the domain here. And then you can redirect it, maybe recreate some of the content that has links pointing to it and take advantage of the links and the history of these sites. So maybe you check out Sherpa Ascent. Comes in at 4,800. The cool thing is if you join using my affiliate link, then you can get $100 into your account. And this particular site, what's the age here? 1999, 22 years old. And you can get a few other, general metrics like the domain rating is 18. The domain authority is, I'm not sure which order they put it in. I suspect the domain authority is 27. The page authority is 34. 94 unique referring domains, and it's still indexed in Google. And one cool thing is you do get the logo if you get a domain from ODYS. So I thank them for their sponsorship, and do check it out. It can be a way to short cut the sandbox. The other thing I'll mention here, and I think there were probably some other questions popping in, but I get this all the time. People do want to work with agencies and stuff, but frankly, it's so expensive to work with an agency because what does an agency do? They go out and hire writers, and then they'll have a project manager, maybe an account manager, and they basically take a lot of the work away from you as far as the HR of hiring and working with the writers. So the pro of working with an agency is you just have one point of contact. Just work with your project manager, and then maybe you give them the keywords, maybe they look for them for you, depending on what the arrangement is. But the fact is, if you hire writers directly, you will probably get higher quality at a cheaper price, and you may get better qualified writers that can write about this specific topic. So if I had a website about my acoustic guitars, which I forgot to put up behind me, which I'll talk about in a second. If I had a site about my acoustic guitars, it'd be great to hire a musician who knew something about guitars versus like a random person on Upwork who didn't know anything about what I was trying to do. And if you go to an agency, you may end up with a random writer. They are probably going to do their best to get someone that's qualified, but the fact is they have a pool of writers and they're going to assign whoever is available. So if the qualified person is not available, you may get some random person writing about something. The point is you can get all the templates that actually Christy used. So you can get an Upwork job posting, creative brief, onboarding guide, an article status tracking. So like a project management spreadsheet. And she's published, I think she has about 500 articles currently. And she is a writer herself. So she goes through all her basically method of hiring people and the phases that she goes through and how she assigns them. Now, she wrote the article, but basically she was using what is inside my course, and then she's tweaked it a little bit, and I'm not trying to withhold information or anything. So I've basically shared all this stuff out here as well. So you can use the templates. It's a lot of what's inside my course, but this is really useful. So if you've been thinking to scale up and publish more content, or you look at the agency prices, and look, I'm shooting myself in the foot, right? I'm an affiliate for the agencies, but what I want people to do is hire the writers themselves, because you're going to get higher quality at cheaper prices. Trade-off, yeah, you're going to spend a lot more time managing the writers. You're going to have to send more emails. It's a pain in the ass. I'm not going to lie to you. But if you're able to put up with some bullshit and you want to get higher quality content, hire the writers yourself. You will have to put up with the HR aspect. It's always trade-offs, right? It's much easier to just hire the agency, but it's a lot more expensive. All right, let's answer some questions and then we'll wrap it up. Paul, what's happening? You like the Christmas decorations? Thank you. These are like going to be year round though. So I recently put them up, and they're going to stay up just for the ambiance back there. And originally I just had the one string back there, but then I brought it along the wall just to give it a little more depth here. Thank you. Beerbong says, can you use the keyword golden ratio on old domains with many backlinks? Yeah, it works even better there. Laughing Hyenas says, Google wants us to be an expert on the topic. How does Google evaluate whether the blogger is an expert in the particular niche or not? I don't know. That is a great question. I have a strong feeling it has to do with the quality and relevancy of the backlinks. However, there is a document out there that Google makes freely available that goes through the manual like check that a manual Google reviewer might go through if they were looking at your site for some reason. Someone probably has a link for that. You can Google it, but I have no idea algorithmically how to check if someone is an expert, because let's say I'm a random dude. Let's say I'm me, and then I have a site that's all about medical stuff. I could just make up a bunch of stuff about who I am and my qualifications and just publish it. No one stops me from publishing like just lies and untrue things. Like I could publish whatever I want. But it's probably unlikely that my site would have links from relevant high quality places. So my hunch is it has to do with your backlinks. If anyone knows in the chat, please let us know. Dan says, Google stopped indexing my post on a brand new site, but Bing does. Is it a good sign? And simply, am I in the sandbox and the content is good? It is, I wouldn't say it's a good sign. It's not a bad sign. I think you are in the sandbox. Is your content good? I don't know. I don't know. It could be. Dan says, discovered not indexed since November 9th. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty typical for a new site. You know, it's brand new. So I would say until you're 6 months to a year in, you probably won't know for sure. But if you go through and you think it is high quality content and the content seems fine to you, it probably is. And you will just have to keep pressing forward. Guys says, I've heard people using the quick edit in WordPress to change the slug and not sure if it works. I have not heard that. And it wouldn't make sense to me for that to be a long-term solution. I could see changing the slug and then it gets indexed and then it gets unindexed again. But I would be surprised. Again, I can't imagine that's the solution. And then we have to question, like, if that is what fixes it, why do we even want to work in an industry where changing the URL on a piece of content is the magic bullet? That sounds bananas to me. So I don't think that's it. I don't think that's it at all. All right, cool. It looks like we made it through the questions. I thought there was a lot more there. The other thing I'll mention is, okay, guys says you're 3 months in and you have hold on, you messed up the Search Console, so you've only been tracking for 2 weeks and you tried the force indexing. So with the indexing stuff, I think I recorded a podcast which is not yet published where someone asked about this. Let me check my Trello board. I think that's correct. Yep. It's going to come out on December 20th. So there was a question about URLs that are not indexed, and they are exactly what we're talking about here, discovered and not indexed. So I did do a little bit of research on it. So number one, you got to subscribe to the podcast. So folks, check it out, Doug Show. And essentially, I did research. The punchline is John Miller said basically Google doesn't know what to do with it yet. They don't know if it's high quality yet. They're like sort of trying to figure it out. So if you do a little research, if you Google that and look around a bit, you'll find a little bit of commentary on it. And the thing I'll point out is the more work that you end up doing, usually the faster you get through the sandbox. So if you look back on the channel here and you find the most recent interviews, there's 2 videos from Charlie. He published 1,000 articles in 2021, or like 925. He'll be up to 1,000 by the end of the year here. Basically, he's getting quite a bit of traffic, but he published a lot of content in a short time. It was a brand new domain. So he shortened the sandbox by publishing a whole lot of content that was very low competition. So he's getting quick rankings. He's getting traffic on those pages, and any one single page is not getting that much traffic, but he has so many that just a few visitors per day on some of the articles, not even a majority, he's getting a decent amount of traffic. And then if you look back, it's like, well, he did publish 900 some articles. A lot of them are not aged yet, and some of the comments were actually interesting, short-sighted, I would say. So people were like, oh, if I published that much content, I would be earning much more. Well, he did publish it all in a really short time, and most of the content is on the newer side and not yet ranking or bringing in traffic. So sure, people could earn more money maybe, but it's actually a fairly difficult thing to do. Like, even if you had unlimited money, you would potentially have some issues publishing 1,000 articles in a year. Even if you had unlimited funds, it would be a little bit difficult. He's hiring writers individually. He's not working with an agency. So if you hired an agency, sure, that would probably be easier, but then you're skipping all the fun there. And the other part is unfortunately, like I mentioned, all things being equal, if you hire an agency and you're paying the same amount, the quality of an agency writer is going to be much less. I mean, there's no way around that. Like, they are hiring other writers, and then there's overhead and admin that must be paid for. There's no free ride, right? So keep that in mind. Okay. Let's see what we have for the last few questions here. Beer Bunk says, which tool gives you the best monthly volume for keyword golden ratio research? You're using Ubersuggest, but you're not sure if Neil Patel does it right. So it doesn't matter. Just pick a tool and use it. I don't particularly like Ubersuggest. You're using the paid version, right? So some people do like it, but I don't particularly like Ubersuggest. I have several videos on the topic of keyword research, so I would check those out. Some of them are live streams, so you can see like real live research for topics that I don't know anything about. But my advice for the best monthly or the most accurate search volume, it doesn't matter. Just pick a specific tool and keep using the same tool. So they're all an estimate anyway. Oh, Dan says, why do people start new sites instead of growing one to get a strong DA? So, Dan, this is a fantastic question. I think it's because people like to start new things because they get a little bored, and it feels very productive to start a new site and publish a new content on that site versus doubling down and publishing more content on the same site, or maybe iterating on the existing content. One of the reasons why I worked with Christy on like this whole 2x accelerator, which you could find, there's at least 10 videos like from this year. And then if you go back, there's probably another 5. She followed my advice in the beginning to not start a new site. She just kept working on the same one. A little spoiler alert, if you've hung around for this long, she crossed over the $9,000 mark in November. So she kept working on the same site. Dan, people think that if they start a new site, then they're going to start earning more like right away, or I'm not sure. There's some misconception, and I'm having trouble pinpointing it. But the fact is, if you publish 100 articles on a brand new site that's still in the sandbox versus 100 articles on a site that is out of the sandbox and already getting traffic, probably you're going to get a much better ROI on the site that can rank the content much faster. But people get bored, and I would say it's rare, almost never. People don't fulfill the full potential for their site. So they may rank well for a handful of terms, and they're like, I better start a new site if I want to ramp this up and I want to scale up. They think they should start new sites. Sometimes people, confuse themselves and think that they're diversifying, but if the income sources are still the same, then it's not really diversifying. If the traffic source is the same, it's not really diversifying either. So I think people just fool themselves and think, I'm going to start a few sites. Some people start like 3 at once, which is even dumber because, if you're doing that out there, I'm sorry that I said, you're not dumb, but the thing that you're doing is dumb. So if you're brand new and you start 3 sites or some, multiple number of sites, the problem is you're going to make mistakes because there's things that you don't know yet, which is okay. We all make mistakes. But the problem is you will be making it multiple times in a row. And then if it's something that's fixable, you will then have to go and fix it in multiple places, which is not only a waste of time, but it will make you feel unmotivated and like you've made a mistake. So, and it's not just if you have 3 sites and you have to go change, one way that you are creating buttons in your content. You may have 3 buttons on each piece of content. And let's say you have 30 articles on each of your 3 sites. So I lost track. So that's like 90 different places times another 3. So you now have to fix something hundreds of times with one little mistake. And you're going to make more than one mistake. So Dan, smart question. Keep working on the same site. Look at the Wirecutter. Like Brian Lamb didn't work on 5 different sites at the same time. He worked on the Wirecutter. Okay. Duke says, I found better success trying to get things indexed. If it says it's not indexed, to test the live URL first, then request indexing. That forces them to read the page before. Okay. So test the URL and then request indexing. Okay. Good point. Okay. And Zach says, for me, it's diversification. If you have 2 to 4 sites, I'm safer if one site gets penalized or outranked, or if affiliate, or at least that's the story I tell myself. Right. So, yep, that's like, it's technically, certainly possible, like an algorithm updates, will hit one site versus another. But typically people, not always, but typically people are starting like 3 sites that are all monetized the same way and get traffic all in the same way. Thane says, like, comment, subscribe, spin around. Yeah, thanks, Thane. Appreciate the support. And we'll finish up here, and then I got to run to the gym, everyone. James says, how many sites do I run? Less than 5. God says, do you actively research and start new projects or maintain the projects that I have? I do start new things occasionally. And you are saying projects, so I'm going to treat that as a broader thing. So I started a new podcast this past year, which I've already talked about. I'm actually doing a podcast network, which I haven't talked about too much, but I'm going to have multiple shows and potentially other hosts, and I'm executive producing things and stuff like that. However, I am working less. I probably work about 15 to 20 hours per week, and I goof around more, and I stop setting goals, and I am trying to do less because it's very easy to get into a rhythm and a habit of starting new things, staying very busy. And when you get, I think probably most people here, you have figured out how to find some keywords, you figured out how to get a little traffic, like you see things working. And you probably now have identified a lot of opportunities out there. And it's very easy to like start another site or do another thing, or you think, oh, you know what? I could do a podcast in the niche that I have a couple sites on already. So once you get a little bit of momentum, you start identifying more and more opportunities. And then if you get to like where Duke is at, for example, where he's moved on to drop shipping and still makes affiliate revenue, there are people that approach you with these opportunities and they're like, hey, I'm going to partner with you and do this and that. And I've now reached the point where those come on a daily basis. And I used to say yes to almost everything, like, hey, this looks like a great opportunity, or it looks like an interesting opportunity, I should go for it. But now I have to say no to almost everything, and I'm only looking at like not just like great opportunities. It has to be something like that's like basically a perfect fit and a very high upside. So I mentioned a podcast network. That's something I'm very interested in and I enjoy, and the upside is very high. And it also is not going to take up like a huge amount of time. So to answer your question, I start things occasionally, but not too many. It's actually more fun to quit projects for me now. It's like canceling something on your calendar. Oh, good tip here from Duke. Tweet the URL and then pin it and then try to force the index. Good idea. Okay, and Zach says, you agree with my points? Great. and you say you don't start a new site until the previous one is a year old. Perfect. Okay, that's great. It gets a little bit of a head start, and then you're basically allowed to focus on something for a little while. And Dan says, is there value in starting sites, waiting through the sandbox, and then selling them? Yeah, probably. It's great if, obviously, if they're earning money, then you could sell them for more. All right. And then Laughing Hyena has the last question. Do you think it's necessary to have the niche keyword in the domain? No, not at all. All right, that's it for this week. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. Thanks everyone for liking. It looks like quite a few people did. Much appreciated. Definitely check out the site that is in the description here. So it's Niche Site Project. ASIN sold a site for $42,000. Outdoor niche. Site's revealed. You can go check it out. Research it. If you're interested in hiring writers, you could check out the article that Christy wrote and stand by for other cool updates from Christy. Got a couple of them coming out in the next 10 days, I believe.